Jameel Khan Saab, when you look at the global perspective of all that has been happening against Muslims, against the Islamic community, whether it be the attack on the mosque in Quebec in 2017, whether it be the attack in Christchurch, on which, of course, this day now is being celebrated, and Pakistan's resolution was based on this as well. This and all that which has been happening in Europe, in the United States of America as well, as far as this discrimination against Muslims is concerned, which and what, in your point of view, is the whole basis of it all? Is it 9/11 or is it even beyond that?
Well, 9/11 just became it just jacked up everything. It existed, the discrimination existed earlier, but it was in a very low tone. But 9/11, it jacked up everything, and things started attaining the proportion which was really totally unacceptable. But the downside of that is that the Islamic countries, they could not put across their point, and they could not negate what perception was being built. You know, after the 9/11, there were some surveys, and those surveys were so disturbing, and none of the Muslim countries were able to address those points. For example, one of the surveys, the question was asked, those in West say Western societies do not respect Muslims. And in that survey, the United States was at the top. 52% of the people in the United States, they thought, yes, it's true. And then likewise, followed by UK and Germany and France and other countries. So there were a whole lot of, so many surveys, and even at that time, it was Pakistan, which through the General Assembly, once the Prime Minister had gone there, they had really projected this point in a very logical fashion and in a very legal, international legal fashion. Now, what Prime Minister said was the human communities, they like to live together, and that's what is given in the United Nations Charter, and that's what is given in United Nations Universal Declaration. And those clauses are very clear, and moreover, the 15th November 1981 General Assembly resolution, which is 3655 resolution, and that was also on the same basis, and it was very clear that the declaration on the elimination of all forms of intolerance and discrimination based on religion or belief. And there were a whole lot of clauses in it, that the principles of UN Charter, dignity of human being, and also the fundamental freedom, which was the religion. So all those the points were encompassed in 81 and the resolution which I just referred. And even afterward, we were not able to. The countries who were loaded with the petrodollars, even those countries did not really try to counter such perceptions which were being built after the 9/11. So that's one aspect. Now Pakistan and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, followed by our permanent representative, we have taken this matter in a very technical, what we call legal diplomacy. We have used as a main vehicle to get this thing accepted. 55 countries, of course, we are very thankful to the co-sponsors. All those countries are Muslim countries. But we are also thankful to the world who were able to pass this resolution presented and sponsored by Pakistan. And this is a demonstration that even in the world, there is a realization. Now, the smaller segment of certain people in those respective countries who have gone totally crazy about the Muslims and the discrimination, the way they are doing discrimination against the Muslims in those respective countries. So that is now being addressed. And in fact, the government of Pakistan today has announced that all our missions would, and not only the government of Pakistan, but the United Nations, in its resolutions, have asked all the organizations, international organizations, countries, and even private sectors, that they should create the awareness by holding the events, very significant events on this particular topic.
This creation of awareness, Pakistan has been endeavoring for that, we understand that. But how much of that has actually been appreciated by the West? Even this resolution that Pakistan tabled and was accepted by the United Nations, there were certain countries that put on their reservations, and I would like to talk about France, I would like to talk about the European Union, and I'd like to talk about India. Now, when you look at these very states and you look at what happened in Europe, for example, the Minare ban in Switzerland, the veil bans across Europe, the burkini ban in France, if you remember that very well, the mosque bans in various European nations. And of course, let's not even go to India because that's a whole chapter altogether. But what do you feel? Do you feel resolutions such as those passed right now by the United Nations, that Ambassador Jamil Sahab also referred to in 1981, have they had any impact? Will they continue to have some kind of an impact as far as, translating all these words into some kind of tangible action is concerned?
Is this question directed to me? Right.
This is a question directed to you, sir, and to Hamid Khan Al-Mashriqi both. And I'd like, if it's possible, for Hamid to begin and then you to continue, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Umar. I would say,
Ambassador Saab, as far as Pakistani diplomacy across the world is concerned, and of course whether it be the efforts to fight Islamophobia or also on other important issues that plague the Islamic world, Pakistan has always been on the forefront. I'd like to you to extend what Hamid has also been saying by your point of view, and also give us an overview of how the Pakistani missions abroad have been working in that respect.
No, I think we need to really gather our strength to further advance this concept and the resolution which has been passed. In fact, there's a lot of need. There's so much of need that we need to really spread this point and bring the awareness, and which is part of this resolution, that the awareness has to be created among international organizations and all the stakeholders, including civil society. Now, Pakistan has already given directions yesterday that Pakistan embassies would organize events to shed light on our role in tackling Islamophobia. And it's all other ingredients which has been mentioned, that the speech of discrimination and against the Muslims, also implementation of this resolution by harnessing the strength of our other Muslim countries. So and also the intolerance and the violence which is being directed towards the Muslim community. So basically what it requires is that the kind of fiasco or kind of phobia which has been created by certain right-wing people in certain countries, and in those countries we actually bring in bottoms-up pressure. And those bottoms of pressure can only happen if we understand the ingredients and the clauses of this resolution and the resolution which was passed in 1981 by the United Nations. And so far as its criminalization is concerned, the General Assembly resolutions are not the binding factor, but has such a moral factor that the countries and the nations, they definitely, with that moral pressure, they realign not only the countries and the nations, but also the societies. And from that factor, the Pakistani mission, your question again about the Pakistani mission has to take a lead role. Like, for example, all the OIC countries, in whatever locations our embassies are located, I think Pakistan being a platinum member of the OIC and a very vibrant member of the OIC, our Pakistani ambassadors can take a lead, and with in coordination and collaboration with other ambassadors in those respective countries can really generate a lot of awareness in those respective countries. With that, our Pakistani ambassadors,
I think we need to move as aggressively. Ambassador Jamil Saab, when it comes to the policing or the different biases that exist, and we've been talking about that with our guests in the studio, do you feel that resolutions such as those passed in 1981 or those recently passed now on the 15th by the United Nations, of course, that was given by Pakistan, do you feel that implementation of those could change these biases? And if so, do you feel that the countries that are part of the United Nations, even those who have reservations about such such policies and do you feel they will move forward in making their people understand what the truth is?
Well, there has to be some vehicle, some medium to really make them understand. If they are having a pressure of their right wing, and those people who are propelling this Islamophobia in the respective countries, then it's becoming it becomes very hard for their lawmakers and the decision makers to criminalize their acts or to punish them properly. Most of the countries, they do have the criminal liabilities of the acts which is being done by the right wing, particularly once it comes to using violence against the Muslims in those studies on the basis of Islamophobia. So yes, there are prosecution in those countries, but unless that prosecution takes place with a wide range awareness and with awareness on the kind and on the grounds, which has been enunciated in both these resolutions, 1981 resolution and the resolution which passed just recently, which we are discussing, and of course Pakistan had the flagship role in it. So, and the resolution very clearly says that why this resolution has been passed, that they were convinced that the freedom of religion or the belief should also contribute towards the attainment of the goal of the world peace, which is again enshrined in the universal in the United Nations Charter, and the racial discrimination should not be there. So your question that how to really implement that, the implementation on the General Assembly resolutions, as I said, that they are not the implementing tool, but they bring so much of moral pressure and awareness among the society, and once it is read in conjunction with the Universal Charter and the United Nations Charter, along with other conventions on such subjects, then it mounts legal pressure on those respective countries, because there are mechanisms that affected countries affected groups such as OIC can then, as a collective platform, can take it up with the General Assembly, and General Assemblies can also pass a resolution to make it a agenda point for the Security Council. So that's the legal framework, the way it works. But my understanding is that all such initiatives by the United Nations, and in this case, of course, OIC through Pakistan was able to take this initiative, and it is only possible that we augment through the media, through academia, through universities, through scholars, and maximum engagement in those respective studies. All our missions of all the Muslim countries, they should try and facilitate respective communities, and integrated seminar, symposium, integrated program, and that definitely brings so much of media coverage, so much of awareness that those right-wing people who are taking law into their own hands in those respective countries, they can then be pressurized and they can start understanding about the issue. Now, the problem is that particularly after 9/11, the Muslim communities in most part of the world, they started shrinking to their comfort zone, the areas of their comfort zone, and their integration with those respective societies of the West that started further diminishing, and that is causing another difficulty. So we'll have to really create a platform and the environment for our Muslim communities living in all those countries as part of as a citizens of those countries to feel comfortable to integrate, and that is possible if the respective Muslim countries, they are able to provide them that environment and create that awareness among those respective societies.
All right.